could start right away. I'm very pleased to be here today because as a text person, I really am in constant need of shouting out really loud for the beautiful convergence between type and language working in design agencies. I forgot to add. Of course, and this is also why I applied to be here, because of this topic, how things go together. That's what I'm interested in. Of course, you all know that these are the real stars of my presentation, which make it look pretty, but they would never work without words. By the way, one of them was not designed by my loving husband. Have a wild guess. Does anyone recognize this? I mean, not the piece of paper, but the words. Wędrowali szewcze. No Polish audience here. I was hoping so much that you would help me. Adam Twardok, where are you? Where is he when he's needed?
Probably sleeping.
Wędrowali szewcze przez zielony las. Nie mieli pieniędzy, ale mieli czas. Wędrowali rybczym, pypczym i śpiewali. Rybczym, pypczym, wędrowali szewcze przez zielony las. Ooh, you made it. These are the only Polish words I know, and this is a text that really came into existence in the biggest need, or rather, in the biggest heat, on a very, very hot summer's day when I was traveling from Poland to Ukraine, crossing the border at a town called Przemysl. Very impressive, only one little vowel in the midst of a lot of non-vowels. And there was, must have been a Sunday or something, no shop was open, we were running out of water, no food to get, so the Polish friend distracted us by teaching us this song. And it says something like, shoemakers are running through the woods, they have no money, but they have time. And then again, they were running, ribchim, bibchim. They were singing, ribchim, bibchim. Shoemakers running through the forest. So it's a song to make children walk. So here you can see how text can get you on. What else was I wanted to say? Well, it's the only words I know in Polish. Probably that was the message behind it. Coming to the next section, getting a little bit more serious. This man spent the last 3 decades of his life in mental hospitals deliberately, and he died alone in the snow on one of his long walks. But before that, Robert Walser wrote some of the most beautiful and most mysterious texts in German language. I can warmly recommend, well, his complete works actually, and most interesting are his microscripts. He wrote in an ever smaller handwriting, turning from pen to pencil at some point. In the end, it was only like 1 millimeter high. Those texts are still being deciphered today. They are published as notes from the pencil zone. Some of them are translated as short stories, which have been found like one story on the back of a name card. This next character was heavily addicted to gambling. And this brought him into great trouble. He had a lot of gambling thefts. To get out of it, he made a contract with his publishing house to get a big amount of money first, and then quickly write a well-selling novel. He wrote a book about a gambler, which was among of his most successful works. I recommend to read also Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground. It's been written from the perspective of some outlaw living in a Moscovian metro station. This man committed suicide when he was 30 because he did not succeed in getting his one and only novel published. But his very persistent mother did. 10 years after his death. And a confederacy of dancers immediately won the Pulitzer Prize. I read it in German and immediately in English. It's extremely witty. You cannot read it in public. You would burst out laughing all the time, especially when thinking about current US American presidential elections, for example. I recommend it. I learned a lot of beautiful new words along with it. 2 in the title, Confederacy of Dancers, would basically be a meeting of idiots or an assembly of idiots. And with this title, The author refers to a statement by Jonathan Swift: "When a true genius appears in the world, you will see it by all the idiots that would turn against him or her." Many of these geniuses have turned against the idiots with writing. They have tried and used words to defend themselves. This would be part of my recommended reading list of German writers, of course, because I know them best, half of them actually being Austrian or Swiss. And if I had to quickly choose 3 for you, it would maybe be a very short story, The Rats Do Sleep Nights, with a very long-lasting impact. And of course, and most of all, The Man Without Qualities, which is a very long novel with the feel of journalistic reports, actually, and which is shockingly modern in content, style, and language. And after that, there will be nothing more probably to read in German, apart from Heinrich von Kleist's gradual production of thoughts while speaking. It most closely refers to my topic today, because Heinrich von Kleist here describes how words come into existence in the process of thinking. And for him, it was very difficult to find words and to utter them, because he was a heavy stutterer. Oh, sorry. Looking at this, shambling is not good while speaking. Looking at this list again, you might see that all these authors had their problems, to say the least. Actually, there's a big black stream of personal tragedy and disasters running through their lives, which did not prevent them from writing. And some of them have, you see it here, produced world literature, what we call so today. Which might lead to my theory, of course, that it needs some tragedy to make a good writer, but which is not true in general. And to think that it would need I don't know, broken biography and some tragedy to make a good writer is not true. It would be sad and cynical also, but there seems to be some relation. Still, these people have not been unhappy all their lives, and they have been very productive. And for example, this guy here is still happy and fine and writing along. I will tell you a little bit later who he is. Let me first spread out my theory. The best texts are born in biggest need. How do we writers work? We look at every word, of course. So what is text? For me, it's language designed. My work is to design with language. Then the German word Not would have several English equivalents, and for each of these equivalents we would have another German word, because in German we have a word for everything, you know that. And if not, we add to them 2 or 10 more to find the exact meaning, and we do not have only one word, we have several. Isn't that beautiful? No? Actually, it's my favorite chart, because it shows how much we have to choose from, and how many words we can use to describe something. Language is such a treasure. But of course, I would never show this chart in a corporate design agency or to a client. They would immediately run away horrified. Text chart does not be among their favorites. So let's quickly reduce it again, and this is what happens quickly in a writer's mind, to what we need at the moment. It would be my headline here, text in need. I was also thinking about a more descriptive one, like text under stress. I also liked some I found, for example, in a blog post about my talk in German, and I very much liked the description, text that comes into existence under stressful circumstances, because that's exactly what happens most of the times working in design agencies. You have deadlines and so on, you know that. So what's the link here? Working for corporate clients, for companies, does mean that you have to convince them most of the time that they need your work, that they need your design, that they need your text. And the thing is that corporate companies are also in need of text. They need to communicate, of course. They need to talk to their clients, to their employees. They need to describe their products, their services. They need to write and speak about themselves, if they like it or not, if they do it consciously or not. And you will note the difference, of course. One quick example from Eden Speaker Months. We were lucky to do a lot of work for Bosch. Bosch is a very interesting company. It's 100 years old, and the founder, Robert Bosch, did a lot of good things for his employees. He was a forerunner of implementing high social standards for his workers, but things have changed. At Bosch, all the people, the men must realize that the world has changed, and they must change in so far that they must include other people in their teams and on their management positions. It's a very long-lasting change campaign, as we call it. We started in 2010 or 11, and today they are dealing a lot with different cultural backgrounds and different religions and age. But back then we started with the most difficult topic, as always, women, of course, in management positions. So what was my task here? Thinking about a concept. We were thinking about how to convince those people at Bosch. So my work consisted of 3 or 4 weeks of reading through piles and tons of business studies from McKinsey, for example, and academic staff and others, to find out about the facts about women in business. And it was super interesting because especially McKinsey, they looked at companies super closely for years and followed up their development in their teams and their success and so on. And they found out that, and with exact numbers, like if you would have at least 3 out of 7 persons to be women in your board, or 16-point-something% women on that and that management level, you will make more profit. Your income will increase. So these facts we used for the campaign. We put it on posters in very simple messages, headlines like a 50-50 combination of men and women in your team will work best, will make more profit. And then on the small copy below, in the footnotes, we put the exact facts and figures and from the studies and the name of the study and the page and everything to prove the facts. It was translated into 8 languages and rolled out internationally. And we started with it in the headquarters in Stuttgart, South Germany. And we plastered our messages all over the building. I also thought about encouraging messages for the ladies and the gentlemen to place them inside the washing rooms, and thought about messages like don't you worry, you will be amongst your pals here forever, for the gentlemen. But it was only there for 3 days, then they took it away. So at least the gentlemen at Bosch need some more time to get used to the changes. Change processes always need a lot of time and a lot of text also. So what are the learnings here? For corporate companies, you always need learnings to convince them. First of all, tell the truth. For a good text, for a good communications campaign, tell the truth. Find the facts. They are all there. They are within your company. They are within yourself. They are around you. They are in society. They are everywhere. You just need to find them. And secondly, prove them, of course. Prove the truth. And find a good way to do so, to tell the truth. This will make your story. And third and most important, trust yourself. Trust yourself that you will be able to express what you want to express. You will find the right words, and trust others that they will read you, understand you, and hopefully respond to what you're saying. So these three truth, storytelling, and trust make for a good text, make for good writing, and make for good storytelling, make for good communications. Of course, in your concept, in your strategy, you can decide that you would focus more on storytelling, for example, or that trust would be the most important asset in your strategy. But I'm definitely convinced that you need those three to make words work again. So, what does this mean for real life? You might ask yourself. In real life, like in companies, shit happens. Your cat may run away. And be it a Polish Pavel or an English Paul or a Berlin Paul like here, did you see Paul? It says here, probably did work but not too well, because the former owners of Paul, after some weeks, would go for radical reduction, plain English, and an additional incentive, a reward. So here you can see that communication can be also a development process, if people respond to you or not, and you can alter it a little bit. In New York City, oh sorry, I switched that again. In New York City, the reward would be the most important thing, be very specific, very high, and make up for the headline. And in the copy it says, no question asked additionally. By the way, those search ads for little dogs look horrible all over the world. I found these two in Sao Paulo last year. They look terrible. But the drama can even be bigger if someone finds your dog or cat and falls in love and doesn't want to give it back to you. Isn't that terrible? I mean, look at the eyes of the guy. He's so much afraid that you would call him. Don't call, don't make it weird, it says. And in some cases, you can't even call. For obvious reasons. Still, I'm sure this communication would work as well. And then in other cases, you might even be able to read this, only to recognize it as Greek letters, for example, lekker letters. In Speakermans, we had this one and only Greek colleague, Spiros from Athens. So here the concept of trust comes in again. We saw that guy, Spiros, as we called him, he looked quite nice, so we believed that he would probably not poison his new colleagues on the very first day. So we tried these plums or whatever it was he brought from his grandmother. We trusted him. You can even with almost no words, you can communicate successfully, or even with one word only, if you add to it a little bit, or with one word in several languages. This was on Potsdamer Straße in Berlin, and it was really working successfully because after a few weeks it was gone. It was replaced by a free prefab shop sign, a professional one, but I like this better. Or you can do as follows: you can use one word for every need. This is condoms, food, and you might guess the rest. Hund is dog, and Lucy in the sky with diamonds. I'm not sure. These are Nessie and Basti. They were sitting at Berlin Alexanderplatz last year in December, and this is probably my most favorite example because they did everything right. This is communication that works. First, they tell the truth. Second, they find a very good way to tell it. And third, they trust themselves in doing so, and they trusted us in understanding them and responding to them. And yes, we did. For example, I went for food for Essen. I bought them abroad and a chocolate, and others were taking pictures and so on. This is communication that works. And look how lovely they did it. And look how again, language and type or handwriting in this case go together so nicely. So to summarize this again for you, my theory is the best texts emerge in biggest need. So vice versa, this means when you are in need, when you lost something, when something happened to you, and you need to say something, you will be able to do so. You will find what to say and how. There will be words for you, be sure. So go ahead, just like this guy did. Does anyone recognize him now? Yes. Yeah, he was in the press quite frequently recently because he's look at the visuals. Actually, look at the hand with the big hands and the cigarettes. All of them. He was in the press quite often recently because he is Poland's most famous writer, and I really recommend to read him, especially the essays about Galicia and other essays about Poland and about this region here, because then you will really learn a lot about the heart of Europe and about what Europe is about. It's witty also and funny, and it's really entertaining. He was in the press because recently he received the Austrian States Prize for Literature, which is very famous. And again, in an essay he wrote about it, in a talk he gave on that occasion, he spoke about Europe and about how we are driven by fear in our politics nowadays. And he also remembers his time as a young man when he was in prison, because he was sent to prison because he deserted from army. And there in prison in the nights, he said, the imprisoned, his pals, told each other their stories. The most talented of them were allowed to walk from cell to cell and to share their narrations with their pals. And as he put it, in these hours when all those thieves and murderers were able to share their destinies, they kind of left it behind. They went with the stream of their narrations they could share, and they destroyed the prison of time for some hours until the prison bells rang in the morning. And never before, never after, this is what he said, did he experience narrations glooming so bright in a dark place. The very last sentence of his speech goes like this. Which I cannot read to you in neither language, but which is probably the brightest way of saying what I wanted to say to you. Thank you very much.